On a humid summer night in 1957, a ferocious thunderstorm rolls across the Wisconsin countryside. Sheets of rain lash out at an old farmhouse crouched in an overgrown field outside of Plainfield. Lightning claws through the sky, illuminating for a split second the sagging roof and the peeling paint of the Gein house. In that brief flash, the yard's neglect is laid bare. Weeds swallow the crumbling fence posts, and the skeletal outline of a collapsed barn leans in ruin nearby. Littered with rusted farm tools left where they were long ago abandoned, the heavy air presses down with the scent of wet earth and decay. Each crack of thunder rattles loose the window panes and make the dilapidated walls tremble. It's as if the house itself shudders at the secrets it holds. Welcome to Timeless Mysteries. Please like and subscribe. Inside, darkness reigns, but for the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. The farmhouse has no electricity, only wavering amber light that dances over stained wallpaper and warped floorboards. The wallpaper, once a cheerful floral print, hangs in curling shreds from the walls, spotted with mildew from years of leaks and neglect. Dust motes swirl in the damp, heavy air. Piles of old newspapers and broken farm tools clutter the corners alongside the cracked porcelain dolls and moldering books. Everything is coated in a thick, slimy grime. In the silence between thunderclaps, the tick of water dripping into a tin pan somewhere in the house echoes like a slow clock counting down. Down a narrow hallway, one door remains shut tight. Behind it lies a room frozen in time. It's eerily pristine without a single speck of dust to be found. It is his mother's room, kept untouched since her death over a decade ago. A silent shrine of normalcy in a house otherwise consumed by rot and ruin. Ed Gein stands in the middle of the main room, his thin, wiry frame lit by the flickers of the lamp and the lightning at the windows. At 51 years old, he looks decades older, with hollow cheeks and sunken, ghostly eyes. His left eyelid sags in a permanent, lazy droop, giving his gaze a drowsy, uneven look. He wears dirty work clothes, rough, stained, wet trousers, and a thick flannel shirt, both smeared with mud and something darker. His old boots are caked with dirt that scuff the floor when he shifts his weight. A tattered plaid cap is perched on his head, its brim damp from rainwater leaking through the ceiling. Every moment is oddly awkward, as if he's unsure how to carry his own lanky limbs. He cocks his head to the side, listening to the wind howl through the eaves. Then he lets out a soft, nervous chuckle. A faint grin pulls at his lips, nervous, almost childlike. Though there's no one here to share the joke, Ed murmurs under his breath. The words are lost to the storm's rumble, carrying on a conversation only he can understand. He is utterly alone in this place, yet he's also lost in this world. The lamplight casts long, quivering shadows that cling to heaps of indescribable clutter and to the things far more sinister. On a small table by a fraying couch, a lampshade sways gently, nudged by a draft. It is no ordinary lampshade. It appears to be made of a patchwork of pale yellowed skin. The human hide is stitched together with coarse twine, and when lightning flashes, the gruesome shade briefly glows, revealing dark, branching veins once buried beneath a person's flesh. Across the room sits a high-backed chair. Its seat cushion and back are upholstered with strips of human flesh stretched taut. Dried edges of skin curl at the seams of the chair, and a stain of long-dried blood darkens one wooden armrest. Arranged casually on a shelf are human skulls, hollow and polished clean. Two of them have their tops sawn off, fashioned into horrific cereal-like bowls. One even holds a few small objects, perhaps teeth or pebbles. It's too hard to discern in the dim light. By the wall hanging from the hook is something that at first glance looks like an ordinary leather belt. A closer look in the lamp's flicker reveal its true nature. Grotesque strip fashioned out of human nipples, strung together in a grisly loop. These unspeakable trophies lie scattered about as if they were mere trinkets or hunting souvenirs. Each one is a testament to the long nights spent in local graveyards and to the horrors stitched together in this very house. In the center of the room, atop a scarred wooden kitchen table, lies Ed's arsenal of tools and supplies, the instruments of his craft. Long-bladed hunting knives and rusty handsaws were arranged alongside thick needles and spools of dark thread. Scraps of tawny cured skin, remnants of past projects, are folded neatly in a pile like a grotesque fabric waiting to be used. A large needle, still threaded with sinew, sticks out of a chunk of something that looks disturbingly like leather, but it's not leather at all. It's as if he were some kind of horror tailor working by lantern light, piecing together a new creation to satisfy a private, unfathomable desire. Ed hums a tuneless little melody as he picks up a knife and runs a calloused fingertip along its edge, checking the sharpness. Thunder booms directly overhead and the whole house seems to quake. Dust shifts down from the rafters, but Ed doesn't flinch. He merely pauses his humming for a moment, eyes flicking upward as the boards groan. Then he continues, wholly unperturbed by the storm raging outside. For him, this is just another evening at home. From the kitchen wafts a nauseating smell that mingles with the kerosene fumes and the mold, the thick, cloying stench of wet decay and cooking flesh. On the iron stove, a dented metal pot bubbles with some foul stew. Each time the lightning flashes outside, the viscous liquid inside the pot glistens red and oily. A meaty steam coils up from its opened lid, filling the kitchen with a greasy haze and sending tendrils of that sickly aroma through the entire house. Beside the stove, an old icebox stands with its door half open, revealing what looks like slabs of meat and pale organs wrapped in butcher's paper in oozing piles. Perhaps once these were meant for dinner, but now they are forgotten experiments slowly decomposing. Flies buzz lazily around the doorway between the kitchen and the main room. Drawn in by the odor, Ed hardly notices them or the smell. To him, the smell is a familiar perfume, the natural byproduct of his labors, nothing to be concerned about. The entire house seems alive with the storm. Wind forces its way through every crack, making the decrepit structure moan and sigh. The kerosene lamp gutters, its tiny flame stretching and shrinking with each gust that sneaks in under the ill-fitting front door. Shadows leap and crawl across the walls, animating the tattered wallpaper and piles of junk, giving the eerie impression that invisible figures skitter around Ed wherever he walks. Then a sudden bolt of lightning explodes outside, flooding the house with a stark white light. For an instant, the true horror of the scene is laid bare. The macabre furnishings, the splashes of old blood, the discarded human remnants scattered at Ed Gein's feet. In that searing flash, Ed stands among it all, thin and small, his head tilted in that perpetual curious gaze, his eyes hollow and distant, look almost gentle in the glare, and the corners of his mouth remain edged in that same faint, satisfied grin. As the thunder's crash finally rolls over the fields, shaking the very foundation of the farmhouse, Ed Gein gently sets the knife down on the table. He wipes his hands on the threadbare, blood-stained rag, then carefully, almost tenderly, adjusts the wick of the kerosene lamp to steady its faltering flame. In the trembling half-light, he appears calm, even content, surrounded by his ghastly handiwork. This is the only world he knows, a world he has fashioned out of loneliness, death, and a mind untethered from reality. To him, this night is no different from any other night. While the rest of the county huddles behind locked doors, waiting for the storm to pass, Ed carries on with his gruesome chores as if they were the most ordinary tasks. In the Gein farmhouse, the line between home and the horrific have long since blurred. And then, under the flickering lamp's glow, he does something that reveals just how far he strayed into darkness. From a tangle of leathery scraps, he lifts a tattered, ghastly garment, sewn together from the flesh of several deceased women. Pieces he thought most resembled the one person he loved most in the world, his mother. With deliberate and almost reverent care, Ed slips his arms into this unholy creation. The suit is loose in some places and pulled taut in others, mismatched seams showing where he tried again and again to shape it into a perfect echo of Augusta Gein. This wasn't ordinary leather, and that mirror wasn't an ordinary mirror. Standing alone in this immaculate shrine of a room, Ed Gein stands before a tall, mysterious mirror as a violent storm rages outside. From Ed's perspective, that glass offers a miracle, the price a few pounds of flesh. It is the only place he could ever find his mother. Augusta herself gazes back at him, alive and as radiant as ever. The weak glow of an oil lamp dances over her familiar features, giving them an almost otherworldly softness. Ed's eyes well with tears of joy. He sees no trace of the monster he has become, only the beloved mother he refused to let death take away from him. Suddenly, a jagged flash of lightning floods the room, and for one blinding instant, the illusion shatters. The mirror reflects not Augusta at all, but Ed himself, clad in the pale, stitched flesh of his insidious woman's suit. In that split second, Ed is startled, and the pristine bedroom itself seems to recoil. Corners of the room reveal peeling wallpaper and blackened grime creeping in from the outside world. Then, as quickly as it came, the light is gone, and darkness returns to cloak the corners once more. In the dim, trembling lamplight, Augusta's gentle smile reappears in the mirror as if nothing had happened. Ed blinks, a shaky laugh escaping his throat, as his mother tells him it's only lightning, dear, and that he's safe with her, and he shouldn't be scared. Fresh tears of relief spill down his cheeks. What would he do without his mother? Augusta's reflection nods slowly, her eyes gleaming with pride and open arms offering the love he's craved for so long. Mother, I've been looking for you, Ed whispers, voice quavering with childlike reverence. He steps slowly toward the mirror, and Augusta steps out with arms wide open, reaching. She holds Ed tightly against her chest and pats him on the back as she feels him still trembling. Ed stays with his mother until he falls asleep in her arms and the storm passes. On November 16th, 1957, Plainfield police arrived at Ed Gein's remote farm to investigate the disappearance of Bernice Worden, a local hardware store owner. What they found was Worden's decapitated corpse among a trove of human remains fashioned insidiously into household items. Gein confessed to killing Worden and Mary Hogan, who had been missing since 1954, and he admitted that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 nighttime trips to local cemeteries, exhuming at least 9 bodies to fuel his warped desire to resurrect his mother. Initially declared unfit for trial in January 1958, he was committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin. In 1968, doctors deemed him competent, and he stood trial without a jury for the murders of Hogan and Worden. He was found guilty, but he had been judged insane at the time of the crime, leading to the judgment being overturned in favor of the verdict, not guilty by reasons of insanity. Gein spent the remainder of his life in psychiatric institutions, including the Mendota Mental Health Institute in Madison, until he died of lung cancer on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77. The coastal highways of 1970s California breathe a different kind of menace after sundown, a silent tension that settles over the asphalt and lingers in the salt-tinged wind. Lurking behind a courteous smile and a quiet baritone stands a giant of nearly 7 feet tall. Big Ed, the so-called co-ed killer. He picks up young hitchhikers with disarming politeness, his hulking frame folded behind the wheel, offering a ride that feels almost safe. Yet there's a storm inside him more violent than any Pacific squall, a rage born of a turbulent upbringing, sharpened by a calculating mind. In the red glow of brake lights, his expression flickers between gentleness and something indescribably cold, as though he alone hears a dark whisper. If Ed Gein's desolate farm sends shivers down your spine, brace yourself. This next tale unfolds on open roads and in the very homes where his victims should have felt most secure. When Edmund Kemper speaks of his crimes, his even voice only deepens the horror, because the more calmly he tells his story, the more sinister it truly becomes. As always, stay kind, be vigilant, and always question the truth. I'll catch you in the next video.